Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us on another Global Technopolitics Forum's Research Team's weekly meeting on January 30, 2022. So we had an eventful week. I participated in a panel discussion which was focused on technology Cold War. The question was, is it raging, and what is happening in various countries? So the panel, the moderator was David Rotkoff, and we had David Sanger of New York Times, and we had Bob LaRusso as part of the panel. It was interesting discussion. Also, I find myself separated from the three because I thought that we really are not in Cold War, and others thought we are in the middle of a Cold War. So there was a very different point of view. Diplomacy seemed to be not very appealing word there, but nevertheless, I tried my best. So, and Greg has been busy. Greg, would you like to discuss anything?
Well, I've mostly been head down teaching my classes and trying to stay ahead of the students. Done a couple of little, some op-edery and occasional commentary, but otherwise it's been mostly teaching.
And Eduardo has progressed with communicating with the organization that he suggests we become a knowledge partner, and member of that organization will join us next week to make the final decision on that part. Finally, we have a very interesting associate joining us from Iran. He has done very interesting study about problems in Iran's path to become a technologically advanced country. And what I find quite interesting, beyond the fact that, okay, in terms of capacity, they have to do a lot of things, but there seems to be a philosophical barrier there. And he's focusing on that, both in terms of the government attitude and also the structures of decision-making in the country. So I'm really looking forward to that study. It's going to be very interesting. Beyond that, I think Puran has some update for us. Puran?
Thank you, Pari. And I'll be truly writing to you next week. There are a few things which I would like to really, they are now closer to getting out there. So I'll be writing to you and to Greg and keep you updated, and also sort of say that given certain areas and issues, I'll be pretty interested and willing to sort of take part. For example, you were trying to refer to last week about some kind of a convening or some kind of meeting that you want to hold on media and media-related issues. So I'll be happy because I have worked with India's largest media house quite some time back, and I have seen the things from very, very close quarters. And I'll be doing some work in that area, starting shortly. So anything which you are planning to do in the area of media, technology related to media, structure of media, independence of media, I'll be very happy to contribute, one. And secondly, with regard to what Eduardo was suggesting to us last week about digital democracy and other facets of it, I was doing some kind of a background work on digital democracy and democracy in digital age. There are two very interesting, amongst other institutions, there are two very interesting organizations. One is, of course, located in DC, called Center for Digital Democracy. They have been doing some very interesting work when it comes to issues in areas such as digital democracy, democracy in digital age, and all other aspects, including geopolitical aspects. The second organization is called as BDEM, called Varieties of Democracy. They're located in Sweden, in Stockholm. Very interestingly, they are being funded by the University of Gothenburg in Sweden. And they're not only confined to Sweden, but they have their branches or subsidiaries around the world. So they have in Balkans, they have in East Asia, they have in Africa. So they cover the entire range of places and people. And what they have been really trying to look at through BDM, which is called Varieties of Democracy, that they're trying to look at democracy in the digital age and trying to give democracy a new spin from the point of view of how digital democracy governance will work. What could be the kind of issues with regard to values when we get into digital democracy age or landscape. They're also trying to sort of see to it as to how could democracy be highlighted as a foreign policy objective, which is purely geopolitics, but very interesting. And then they're trying to sort of do a lot of measurement and visualization about democracy and democratic scenarios in times to come. So these are the 2-3 quick sweet spots for Global Technopolitics Forum to consider keeping them on the radar. Because one which is in Sweden is funded by University of Gothenburg and also by a couple of foundations. So they have been doing some pretty interesting work. And also because they are measuring democracy, they're trying to look at governance system. They're also trying to see to it as to how could democracy look like using data and data sets. So there could be one place to consider. The second one, of course, is right there in the DC called Center for Digital Democracies. So, and they also give grants on an annual basis. So we could probably consider that part as well, that while we are doing research and convening, and we could also try and identify, as we talked late last year, that how do we really also try and find out ways and means in which we could probably begin to reach out and begin to write to these people and places and begin to sort of throw our hat in the game for raising resources, which would be, you know, applying for grants and getting the grants and then moving on.
Sure. We have been trying to identify, and I will make a note of their names. We will look at them, but we have been trying to identify sources of grant and approach them. We have written already, I think, at least 10, 12 proposals and approached various places. So we're looking both for partnerships and grants and, you know, trying to expand in one hand, another one, getting support if it's possible. And I think Greg has a lot of connections in Stockholm. Am I right, Greg? You work with the
some, yes,
government.
yes.
Okay. Firuze, I noticed that you were also working on the China document.
Noticed, you're like spying on me. I'm pretty much done, actually. I realized by the time I finished it that I could answer some of the comments that I had. So I'm going back and answering myself, and so just doing like a little, yeah, that's how it goes. And so I didn't reorganize the paper the way you had it. So I've just gone through all the sections and opened it up and looked and brought in other sources and other information to kind of beef it up. But I'll just leave it the way it's organized, and you can do what you need, or give me directions to how you want me to, or if you want me to do something else with it.
Sure.
So yeah, so that is, I'm pretty much done. I have a question for you. The panel that you were on, who had sponsored it? Who were the sponsors?
It's part of a series called, let me see if I can get the name. It's David Rapko actually is part of this, his host for this media company. He has his own media company. There's a lot of platforms he's involved with. And this was part of those series. It's called, I think, what's it called? Beltway, I think DC Beltway Black Box, kind of deep state. So one radio is deep state, the other one is black box, Beltway Black Box. So there's an awful lot of various platforms showing the same thing. Most of them showing it as podcast, but there is also a webinar which is going to come. When I had the links, I will post it in our website.
For some reason you cut out and I cannot hear you for some reason.
Oh,
Okay,
do others hear me?
Yeah, now I can, now you're back. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Well, that's the great thing about DC. There's so many interesting panels and
Yes.
events going on that I really miss that, yeah, which we have so much of.
But this was virtual, so it didn't make difference whether I was in LA or I'm in DC.
Okay, yeah.
And in fact, it was arranged while I was in Los Angeles, but the date was when I moved here. So not much difference really being here or not. But yeah, they have several platforms and it is right now online as a podcast, but it will become also a webinar. And once I have the links, I will post it in our website.
Great. Yeah.
But yeah, it was interesting discussion. So beyond that, the other thing I have to report is we have 2 new interns from USC joining us. One is a Chinese working on China paper, which I'm sending him his assignment, and the other one has a Navy background, and we had a NATO project. We proposed to NATO, which we didn't win it, but I think that project worthwhile reviving, and that's about what I call organic intellectuals. So I'm asking him to identify those within the forces. So military forces, Navy, and Air Force. He has an Air Force background. So I think it will be an interesting project. And we will see him in our meetings. Beyond that, is there anything else anybody wants to discuss? No? So it's going to be a very short meeting. Puran, thank you very much for the organizations you
Absolutely.
identified. I made a note of them and we will try to contact them and see if they're suitable. I will study them and probably contact them and we will see if we can propose them a project that will be suitable to them. For the media webinar I was discussing, still it's not organized, but we will organize it soon and everybody will be informed about it.
That'll be
Anything
very
else?
kind of you, Pari. That'll be very kind of you, and I'll be
Welcome.
sending you an email, putting the names of those 2 organizations along with their
Thank you.
mail ID and also the website. And for the media thing, I'll be very happy to rope in a few people from Europe because I'll be doing some work with these people starting shortly, and I'll be writing to you, as I said. And I'll be very happy to rope some of those people in who are basically working in Eastern Central University, which is spread in Budapest, Brussels, and Austria. So they have got a dedicated center called CDMS, called Center for Media and Digital Societies. And they've been doing a lot of work on media and media-related topics. So they could be another organization to be sort of consulted with and keep them into the loop. And we could also really try raising some resources, joining hands with these people as well.
Sounds very interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So
Thank you
interesting.
for
Thank you.
researching.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, in this case, I want to thank you everybody for being here and wish you a wonderful week ahead.
Good week. Yes.
Yes, see you next week. Take care.
Okay. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.